Jack and Jill Radio Show, WNUR 89.3.
Jack and Jill.
The trip. Well, one day we got invited to the Ivory Coast by the U.S. Embassy to come and do a hip-hop program. I got the call, and of course I said I don't travel anywhere without my producer, DJ. And, we worked that out. And then they wanted us to come and do this tour focusing on peace and tolerance through hip-hop. And there was a female gender empowerment component. And so I'm like, well, can I bring someone else? And they said, well, who would you like to bring? And I pitched for Ange 13, and that's how the three of us wound up going. And actually, we became U.S. Cultural Envoys and spent 2 weeks traveling 7 regions of Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast. And one of the most interesting, as I said earlier, I grew up in Nigeria. So for me, it was almost like kind of going back home. But the biggest difference was that Ivory Coast is a French-speaking country, and none of us spoke French.
Wow.
So it was kind of like going back home, and, I couldn't really communicate. But we had a really, really great time. We traveled 7 regions of the country. We conducted workshops with young people. We met with artists. We performed. We did radio and television, and we just really promoted grassroots organic hip-hop over whatever commercial hip-hop they otherwise have access to. Yeah. And so Ange did at each workshop, Ange did a graffiti workshop. Chris did live recording sessions right there in the workshops. And we recorded the artists as we traveled. And then at the end of the tour, we started in Abidjan, and we traveled to, I'll just run them off real quick because they might be listening. I definitely want to shout them out. But we went to Aboissou, we went to Gagnoa, Daloa, Ferke, Korogo, Abengourou, and Abidjan. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then we also went to Yamoussoukro, which is the capital of the country, the administrative capital.
Bouaké.
And Bouaké. And so what we did which was pretty phenomenal even in my opinion, and that is we said we can't just come and take this trip and it just be like, oh, remember that trip we took?
Right.
So one thing that we did was we established...
Are you in Africa again?
Right.
Exactly. Right.
We established hip-hop sister cities, Chicago hip-hop sister cities relationships with all the 7 regions so that we could at least be able to support them in some capacity beyond, whatever, but give it a real name. At the end of that, we met in Abidjan for our final conference, and we went as the Chicago Hip-Hop Initiative. That was kind of our moniker for the trip. Me, Ange, and Chris were the Chicago Hip Hop Initiative. But that's also the name of our nonprofit. So we were able to go and talk about all the organic grassroots, social justice stuff that we do here with hip hop. It was right before the elections for them, so I think that piece was empowering. But at the very end, on the last day, one thing that we were able to get done, which was really cool, was to get a representative from each one of the 7 places that we went to. The embassy sponsored them to all come to Abidjan for the final day, which was pretty amazing because a lot of those artists had never even left their regions. And a lot of them even commented on how they never imagined sitting at the table with someone from this other place. So it was great to see hip hop bring them together in the U.S. Embassy.
That's really cool.
And they came together on their own and decided that they were going to form the Côte d'Ivoire Hip Hop Initiative, which they started. We took the trip in 2010, and since then they have just been doing remarkable work with just that little. I mean, I want to say that we did something, but I think all we did was just really validated them to go ahead and take it and run with it. But right after we left, the country plunged into civil war because it's a whole political thing. But they had long overdue elections, and the elections finally took place, and old guy said he refused to leave, and new guy said, no, you have to leave. So there was a lot of chaos that ensued. And it was really sad for us to still be in touch with the artists, via Facebook and whatever.
Right.
And for us to know that there were literally bombs blasting outside of their doors.
Yikes.
And what was so empowering was that these young people, through all of that, still managed to go to the studio and record an album that they entitled the Unity Album.
Wow.
And, they were like, you know, they'd be on Facebook like, okay, like one of our friends was like, I don't know if the internet is going to get shut down, so we got to like get this record together. So we were all like pushing.
Yeah.
You know, I did artwork. Chris produced several of the tracks on the album. He mixed it. They worked with some other artists here in the U.S. And then he'll talk a little bit more about some other relationships that we built. But it was truly a life-changing experience. And what we did along the whole trip was we videotaped everything on flip cams and cell phones. And we came back with all this footage. And I thought, we should make a movie. We had like over 50 gigs of just footage from everything. And so we made a movie called Keep It Moving. And it premiered in the Chicago International Music and Movies Festival in 2011. And it's just been great. You know, the film kind of just was our way of sharing our trip with everyone. But it was really good for the artists. It's on YouTube, so you can, you know, people can watch it. It's an hour-long film, and it chronicles the whole trip.
And I think we posted it to the Jack and Joe.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Yes,
Thank
there
you.
it is.
So, that's the Côte d'Ivoire Hip Hop Initiative and the work that they're doing over there now with young
yeah.
people. They're doing work with UN, they're doing youth work, and they have really, you know, taken that hip hop empowerment piece and run with it. And that's been really rewarding.
Now, where can people find the album that they did? If they were looking for
Actually, you can find it at, I don't think we have a link on urbanizedmusic.com, but if you go to chihiphop.org, chihiphop.org,
Okay.
there's a whole link to the Côte d'Ivoire Hip Hop Initiative. There's info about the artists, because we're partner groups now. We're partner organizations. We work together.
Awesome.
We're on their board. They're an official NGO. So they're a nonprofit organization, and they are doing some phenomenal things out there.
Yes, they are.
Shout out to Face to Face, Frank Toe, and Esdeen, Queen Lacey D, Noble MC.
Oh man.
They're all on Facebook.
Apple.
okay.
Tons
Yeah,
of
Apple, Venom Le Chef.
Venom
But
Le Chef, yeah.
Facebook has been remarkable, like keeping us together.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how we would make it otherwise, because I mean, my little translations in French on letters would not work. So
You don't think so?
no.
If you ever tried to talk on the phone overseas,
Yeah. So, and
boy, burn
I
your
almost
minutes.
ordered us 13 omelets one day for breakfast. So
Wow.
my French is, although I did take French all through high school, so I should be ashamed to say that.
Yeah. We
I
had,
did too,
we had
but I don't
translated.
remember anything either, so don't feel bad.
And it's so much different when you get there, because they're like, and I'm like, wait, I think she said something about at. Right? That's all I got.
I think she's trying to tell me I lost my gloves.
That's right. Is this
Right.
So, but it was really nice that the U.S. Embassy took a great care of us, and we just felt really fortunate to not only represent ourselves, but to really represent the country, and to go over there and show them, you know, that there's more to hip hop than what they see. We even had to defend, you know, the Biggie and Tupac, or defend, you know, hip hop stereotypes, because they were like,
Really?
you know, they were like,
Yeah.
we see all this stuff on the internet and in the media, and then you come here and you tell us that hip hop is good. So, like, why should we believe you? So, I mean, it wasn't a lot of that, but we had some people who, you know, really kind of took us to task for this thing that we're here
Right,
promoting
right.
to them, to tell them that, you know,
Is hip hop
something
really
good.
big over there where you were?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is. It really is. And actually, over there, for a lot of the artists, hip hop is really like just a way of life. Like we say, we live hip hop. They live hip hop. Like a lot of those artists out there, they would tell you if they did not have music or even hip hop in their life, that they'll tell you I wouldn't be here. I mean, it's really, really, really that serious to them. And a big thing was like Amina said, the stereotypes. I mean, we would go at workshops, and you know, we talk to cats, and they're sitting there, and they got like these big G Unit, you know, jerseys on. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, and they're so caught up in Western civilization, you know, with hip hop and just all the stuff that they see on the TV. So we had to tell them, no, those gold chains and platinum chains don't belong to them. Those cars, they don't own those. Those things are rented. Those girls in the video that are, you know, scantily dressed are just models.
They're not
getting
their
paid.
girlfriends.
You know,
They're really not
so it
their
was a lot,
girlfriends.
and you would be surprised. But as we told them, the looks on their face was like, oh my God, I've been bamboozled and hoodwinked. And we're like, yeah, you and everybody else. So we were the model to say, look, no, hip hop is not that. It's about the culture. It's about the graffiti. It's about the b-boy. It's about the DJ. It's about the MC. And so we were able to take them something really organic and just in turn let them know the things that we were doing here in Chicago. You know, where it's different, you know, there's government, there's different restrictions. You know, they can't just go to their local government and say, hey, we want to, and they'll be looking at you like, no, that's not going to happen. Out here, we got a little bit more liberty where we can kind of speak our mind, put together stuff and say, this is what we want to do. So we did different things like letting them know how we did Hip Hop Heritage Month for Chicago, and Amina will speak more on that. But just different things that we were able to do. We say, yeah, you go to your elected officials, you go with petitions, you go with a mindset of how you want to get something done and how it's going to benefit the community, and they might listen to you.
Right. And that's what we tried to show them, how they could use hip hop as a voice and as a tool to actually affect change, and not just something you do on the weekend with your boys or to entertain yourself, but
teaching them
that
how
you
to
can use this. Like we were even telling them that, you know, you could like read to school children, you could do after school programs, like you could go to schools and you could teach the kids how to rap, and they're like, yeah, like we can do that. And a lot of these things, I think they just needed the thumbs up that, yeah, you can do that. That's okay to do that. But who would think that hip hop would be empowering at all?
And then I think also that with like, I mean, as far as I know, like in Cote d'Ivoire, I think maybe like El Hell might have showed up in the Ivory Coast in like
in the 90s.
And a lot of these cats were still holding on
like,
to that, but
you're the
you
first
also,
person
you know,
here since LL. I'm like, yeah, I'm up there with LL.
That's right.
But I think also the thing that was different is we were much more hands-on, you know, where it wasn't, oh, keep them away from the people. We were there, you know, we were talking with them. We were telling them, no, this really can happen. You know, you get other artists, you know, I mean, I know about 50 Cent going to Africa and a couple other people. But
talk about the club in Ganywa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, the club in Ganywa was, it was kind of like this, I don't know, it's real open kind of a space. There's no drinking or age limit to drinking in there. So you got kids 15, 16 years old probably in there with beers. But it was interesting because we met a bunch of artists out in Ganywa. This was like one of the towns where everybody was artistic. I mean, you had reggae artists, rappers, beatbox, everything. I mean, just very artsy town. And we went to this nightclub in the evening. They put us in a nice little VIP area and all this. And, you know, we were having fun and doing our thing. And, you know, they were announcing that the Americans were there and who we were and all this other stuff. And I asked the artist that was there from Ganywa, I said, hey, you guys going to get on the stage and perform tonight? And they were like, no. We were like, why not? And they're like, well, because the owner of the place, he doesn't support hip-hop. He thinks it's negative. And it was just like crazy. We all looked at each other like, seriously? So we kind of like tossed amongst each other. We got the owner over. We had a conversation. And, you know, basically it was more or less like, well, we're here to show that hip-hop is not what you guys think it is. These guys live here. They support this bar and this community. They should have an opportunity to do their thing. So we talked to him, and after a while, he was like, all right, I'm going to give him a shot. They got on stage and they rocked the house, and you know, I mean, it was their first time, you know, living there,
and
that they were able to actually
they frequent. They're
all the time.
They're here all the time. They go to this place, but they're like, oh no, we can't perform. They don't allow hip hop.
So then, where would they perform then? Where were they?
Wherever they could. I mean, they would have like community places that they would do stuff, kind of like community centers, or you know, just like anybody else, they just out on the road,
on the block,
freestyling. You know, he said on the block. Huh?
Okay, on the road.
On the road.
You're
block.
right. It was the road.
But yeah, they would just
road.
they would just be out, you know, freestyling, doing their thing. But I think it was little things. I mean, and you'll see more. I don't want to give away everything that's in the movie, but you'll see this different things where we were just like, no, just let's get everybody to look at it in a different manner. And when they just stop and just change how they thought, then you could see some things actually progressing. I mean, just in the same token where the artists, right in the middle of Civil War, you got the North against the South. You got one president from the North, one from the South. So it's like you got the country torn in half. You even have artists who were still a part of this whole Cote d'Ivoire hip hop initiative.
Oh yeah,
living in total places, could be complete enemies. These people were running out in between bombs, curfews, everything else, going to the studio.
Some of the artists that we met actually were injured. A couple of them were shot. Injured. One guy lost his son because they had to flee to a camp, and his son got meningitis or something like that, and he
Yeah,
ended up losing his 2-year-old baby, which I still think they were trying to make me bring the baby back to the U.S.
Yeah.
because they gave me the baby, and his wife was like, "Here, take him," and I'm like, "I can't take him." So
Like, take him back to
yeah.
America.
Very nice parting gift.
It was, and they gave
Thank
me
you
a
so much
teddy
for
bear
coming.
and a
Here's
picture.
our baby.
Right. They gave me a teddy bear and a picture of the little boy, and he's the little boy who died the next year, which was kind of like, so it's one of my little keepsakes.
Yeah.
But we're still really in touch with them, and we try to support the artists. We're really it's like a new family for us.
Yeah.
And there's not a day that goes past when we don't talk either to someone or about something or reminisce, because I think it really changed us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
How has that relationship blossomed since you've gotten back? I mean, you mentioned Facebook, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Continue to
Well, you can talk about all the production, because
Yeah.
what has blossomed from
Noble.
now
Well,
that you're here?
that was one. I mean, there's been several things, but I mean, one thing most recent is the work I've done with a guy named Noble MC, who's out there. He's a MC from Abidjan, and we met at the last workshop. We were at this another prominent artist out there named Priska. She has like a marquee, so it's kind of like
She's the first lady of Ivorian hip
hip hop. Yeah. So she has her own kind of like has her own like little kind of like restaurant bar, kind of outdoor. Can't even really describe a marquee. It's just like. It's just a nice place to kind of chill, But she conducted the workshop, the last workshop we did in Abidjan there. And while we were there, this one guy he was just rhyming, just freestyling, just, he's in French, so I didn't really understand, but he just kept rapping. Every time I turned around, it was him on the mic, rapping. I was playing beats and getting the workshop and stuff set up to do the live recording. He just kept rapping. And then I kind of went over to him and I kept listening to him and, listen. And then after he stopped, he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he was like, I love Chicago hip hop, in his best, English. And I'm like, wow. I mean, he was like Verbal Kent, Giraffe Nuts. And he started naming like all of these Chicago artists. And I was like completely floored. And I brought him in and Angel and I said, say that again. He was like, Verbal Kent, Giraffe
We were like,
Nuts.
did he just say Verbal Kent?
And we're like, I'm like
in the middle of nowhere, literally.
And he knows about some Chicago hip hop artists. So I was
How do you
completely
know about
floored.
him?
Oh, well, the internet,
Yeah.
probably. But
Yeah.
it was funny because he had his Walkman on. And in the film, you'll see him. I think he probably still has his headphones. And he later told, he won't kill me for this,
If
but
he's listening.
He later said that he didn't want us to know that he was listening to these. He said he was listening to Chicago artists when we were there, like right there. He was like, but I didn't want you guys to know that I bootlegged it off the internet. I didn't pay for them. And I didn't want you guys to think bad of me that I didn't pay for these artists that I'm listening to. But he's
Like, wow.
go figure. We're not even into Chicago hip hop.
Yeah.
And he's into not New York, not some other
Not
kind
down
of, but
south,
he's into
nothing.
Chicago
hip hop. So yeah, so he was just kept freestyling, and we made a connection. I got tickets for him and his buddy to come catch the last show that we did that night, and then I think probably 2 days after we touched back down, I got an email from him. He was like, "Hey, I want to do some work with you." And I was like, I was still trying to get myself adjusted to the time zone.
Right.
I needed like 2 days to get caught up. But after I got back and I said, you know what? He sent me a couple of freestyle stuff that he recorded over some Kev Brown beats, and he's like, yeah, Kev Brown. He's like, and he's just like a straight up hip hop head, like backpacker hip hop head. So he sent me some stuff, and then after that, I was like, I'm sold. So then I sent him the first track, which was Hip Hop Forever. I think 2 days later, he sent it back to me. And after that, we've been working ever since. The first thing we did was the Noble Phenomenal EP, which was like 4 songs. We put that out like right around his birthday. And then most recently, just back in February, was it February? I don't know, just not too long, probably about 6 months ago, we released another project called Straight Outta Yopougon, because he's from Yopougon in Abidjan. So, and the whole concept was Straight Outta Yopougon, kind of like NWA, Straight Outta Compton. Right. But of course, he wasn't holding the gun. But the art cover is them leaning over and all that stuff in the for the artwork. But yeah, it's got a lot of songs on there. And once I got back, I got in touch with Verbal Kent, because I've done some work with him before, and I was like, man, VK, I said I was just in the Ivory Coast, man, and I said I ran into this kid who was literally name dropping you in his best English and your whole crew, and talking about he loves Chicago hip hop. So I just reached out to him. I said, man, I'd love for you to do a collab with him. He said, man, consider it done. So he's got the collab on there. It's called Verbal Assault, and that's been getting a lot of pub. And right now we're currently working on his new album, Zoomy World. So he's got, he's a very talented guy. I didn't bring any of his music, which we should have, but he, of course, was on the last.
You can download it for free at urbanizemusic.com.
That's right. And he was on the song at the
we'll
end,
play it.
rhyming. So
Okay.
yeah.
We'll definitely. We'd love to play it on the show.
And it was cool, too, mentioning that Verbal Kent story, because when I talked to Noble after that, he was like, wow, I really know that I'm blessed. He's like, here it is. I always adored, I loved Verbal Kent. Never knew that I would even get a chance to, meet him, let alone have him feature on my album.
Yeah.
So I think he really feels like,
That's
wow, this is something
awesome.
special because,
You guys
I'm
really
able
know how to
really
make the
do these
connections,
things.
man. So you guys heard that. If you guys need connections to somebody, if there's
Yes,
somebody
give
that
us
you want
a
to meet and
call.
work with, then you need to talk to Chris and Amina, because obviously they're the people who know how to get that done.
www.theconnection.
Right.
Jack and Jill Radio Show, WNUR 89.3.
Jack and Jill.